Because I mean, if I was thinking I might buy a house of it at some point, I wouldn't have that opportunity anymore, putting it in a pension.
Yeah.
So would you advise something like more like an ISA, maybe?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So really good tax saving vehicles, ISAs. You know, you might do a combination of a lifetime ISA and a stocks and shares ISA.
Yeah.
So in any given tax year, you've got a £20,000 allowance, but that's across your entire ISA allowance.
Yeah.
So if you were going to put 4,000 into a lifetime ISA, which is your maximum for a lifetime ISA, you could put 16,000 into a stocks and shares ISA, for example. And then you've got another £10,000 that you could put into an investment account, which could mirror the underlying investments that you've got in your 2 ISAs. And then you could move it across into your ISA in the new tax year once your allowance resets.
So your total ISA allowance is 20,000?
Yeah, each year. Yeah.
No matter how many ISAs you have?
No matter how many ISAs you have, yeah. So if you've got 10, you could do 2 into each.
Okay.
If you've got 2, you could do 10 into each. There's different types of ISAs that have different allowances. So like, for example, the lifetime ISA has only got 4,000. So you just got to take into account all those things. But overall, it's £20,000 allowance.
Okay.
Worth knowing, because I get asked this quite a lot, is sometimes people have got some cash ISAs or some other ISAs maybe that they want to consolidate together.
Yeah.
And they don't know if transferring an ISA pot into a new ISA accounts towards that allowance. It doesn't. So if transferring an ISA doesn't use up any of your allowance.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're funding a new ISA from another ISA, that is not using up any of your £20,000 allowance.
And is that just because banks are happy to receive that money anyway, right?
I guess so, yeah, I guess. And it's also, you know, that money you've already put into an ISA once.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to get the benefits.
Okay. Yeah.
That money has not, you know, you haven't taken it out, you haven't. One thing I guess to be aware of with ISAs is not all providers have got what are called flexible ISAs.
Right.
It's something to do your research on. So when you're looking at an ISA provider, make sure that they are flexible ISAs. What I mean by that is if you put money into an ISA, however much you put in, let's say £10,000, but you wanted to take that money back out, or if you wanted to take some of it out, let's say £5,000. So you put in 10, you take out 5. A flexible ISA will mean that after you've taken out 5, you can still put back in 15 in that tax year if you had the ability to.
Okay.
But a non-flexible ISA, you've put 10 in, you take 5 out. The fact that you've taken 5 out doesn't matter in terms of your allowance. You can still only put 10 back in. Because you put 10 in, taking money out doesn't affect the allowance. So flexible ISAs are better in that sense because it means that you have the ability to take money out without it affecting your allowance for the year.
But less interest more than likely, right?
No, not at all. No. It's just down to the provider because some of them were set up longer ago.
Okay.
You know, the ability of a flexible ISA is a slightly newer piece of legislation.
Okay.
And some providers have developed their products and others haven't. Because a stocks and shares ISA, you determine what the underlying investment is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't impact the returns that you could get.
Okay. So just a little bit more old school.
Yeah. Typically some of the high street banks have still got those non-flexible features.
Got you. So what's the most common myth about investing that puts people off getting started?
They don't understand it, typically. I had a conversation with a friend of mine's partner recently, and it was along those lines, and she just said, I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. Where do I even begin? And I think, it's worth putting out there that technology has moved on so much in the last 10 years that everybody's access to really sophisticated investment portfolios is a lot closer and easier than maybe you think. It's true. In the past, if you wanted to invest, you had to read up on the Financial Times and you had to buy stock from the companies directly. And that was a bit more difficult. You had to manage your portfolio yourself, or you had to use a stockbroker. And these things can be a bit off-putting to most people.
Yeah.
But with the development in investment platforms and technologies and access to really good risk-managed model portfolios, on all of the major investment platforms now, you don't have to manage the money yourself. You can just use a fund manager to do it. Make sure you know what their costs are, because some charge more than others to manage that particular portfolio. So, make sure you understand what your net returns are and your gross returns and your charges. And as long as you're happy with that and you feel like you're getting value, you don't actually need to do any of the management yourself. You can do as much research as you want in terms of what's in that portfolio. You can look at the fact sheets, you can look at the underlying holdings, the asset allocation, the sector allocation, the territory allocation, or you can do none of it at all and simply just allow the investment manager to do the work for you. The difficulty there is, which investment manager to choose, which fund manager to choose, and that's one that you just have to spend a little bit of time doing some research on. Have a look at the fact sheets, have a look at the costs, have a look at the past performance. Amount of money invested in those funds is often a good indicator. Large amounts shows good economy of scale. I think that the main barrier for most people is just that they feel like they don't understand it or it's not for them. But actually, the likelihood is that they have a pension with their employer where they are invested already. They just don't know it.
Yeah.
And just paying a little bit of attention to it can hopefully give them a bit more confidence that they can do it themselves.
Okay, so what's your view on these investment platforms that allow people to use general investment accounts where they particularly don't really have much control over what they're putting their money into, apart from probably delegating out the risk, as in how much percentage they'll put into bonds and how much percentage they'll put into property or REITs, how much percentage they'll put into stocks and things like that?
That's a good question. I'm getting into the weeds now. And I guess the answer there is that a lot of portfolio managers, investment managers, fund managers, whatever you want to call them, multi-asset portfolios, where you're talking about the ones that have a certain percentage of commercial property, commodity, bonds, equities, they will have a variety of different models with tweaked asset allocation dependent on risk.
Yeah.
So for any individual investor, if they wanted to invest with that particular investment manager because they were confident with them, they'd done their research and they wanted one of their portfolios, there's normally 5, 7, maybe up to 10 different portfolios where at the very bottom, the 1 out of 10 might be a minimal amount in the stock market, mostly